Is this thing working now? Oh, isn't that cute? It looks like I got everything working now. All right. Well, I guess we had a silent movie for about the first, I don't know, 8 minutes of that. That was actually a really good one, too. So if you can read lips, you're in the mix. Wow, that was pretty funny. So now we're back in the thing. Okay, so basically, this is how this all played out. By the way, this was a keyed mute and not a problem with YouTube. So anyway, there's that for you. Somehow or another, I killed the mic on this rig. It's technology. Listen, I can tune it, but anything else, phones, everything, this stuff blows my mind. It's like it's allergic to me. Anyway, what I was saying while I was doing the whole silent movie thing was throughout the process of me looking for a new ride, one of the things that's come up has been this market correction thing. And it's really gotten underneath my skin because the market correction only works if the buyer is willing to take the bait. If the buyer is actually going to go forward with the purchase of that rig, then they're going to have to understand that they're getting fleeced, ripped off, and everything else under the sun. Sorry, still sweating. Hard workout, haven't cooled off yet. So it's one of these things. I'm all worked up about it. Man, y'all, that's 8 minutes of gold right there. That was pure fried excellence. And I can't believe it was muted. That sucks. So anyway, getting back to it, the problem that we're going to be running into that I've run into is this whole game of the added tag on these cars. And my response to that basically is this. If it's called a market correction, what happens if I'm not part of that market? See, the idea with a market is that you have something that you are willing to trade for a good or service. In this case, a dealership has a vehicle and I have money that I'm willing to trade for the vehicle. That's the market. And if that dealership is trying to rip me off, then I'm going to be a little bit less inclined to be a part of the market. That market correction, see, it only works when you start trading funds. And the problem is that can, in this case, can be misconstrued as a portion of a negotiating tactic. In other words, wow, okay, listen, buddy, I'm going to try to get you this sweet deal, but we're going to try to just get it to you for sticker. We're going to try to get that market adjustment taken off of there. No, I'm going to tell you something. That tactic had me walk out of 2 dealerships, stepped it, literally, peace out, when the guy tried to use a market correction as a portion of a negotiating tactic. Let me explain something to the dealers that are out there. And this doesn't apply to every dealer, by the way. I got a couple that I think I can do business with. But here's the twist. When it comes to this market correction thing, if you think that they're doing you a favor by having you pay sticker, which is already too much money, then you're absolutely out of your mind. And the other thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about, one of these other hysterical negotiating tactics is, well, we have a dealer prep fee. A dealer prep fee? What the fuck you got to do to this car to get it ready for me that the manufacturer hadn't already done? Can you believe that they're actually willing to charge you to put air in the tires? To put air in the tires. What, the bitches come flat? You got to get out there and bicycle pump that bitch up because the amount of money that they're asking to put air in your tires is astronomical. This cat tried to tell me, well, we put nitrogen in your tires. Really? No shit. Well, let me ask you something, sales guy. This is a question that the poor chap could not answer. What percentage of the air that you're breathing right now, what percentage of that air is nitrogen? Time's up. 70% of the air that you're breathing is nitrogen. 20% of that air is oxygen. The balance are all the rest of the trace and noble gases. So you mean to tell me that you're going to charge me an amount of money for something that is 70% of something that I already get for free? Who came up with this? Listen, I ain't mad at you. It's freaking marketing genius. But I got to ask again, you're charging me money for something that 70% of the thing that you're putting into my tire, I already get for free by sticking the thing into the thing that I got at the house. There were other parts of it where, well, it was some kind of a paint protection thing. Kidding me? What, they're going to throw some wet? They ain't doing nothing. They're putting a little green cap on your valve stem. It's about the most I can see of it. It's about as much of a value that I have to it. Guys, I got to tell you something. This is ridiculous. And by the way, that add a tag and dealer prep, take a wild guess at what that was going to try to cost. Oh yeah, about $5,000 to $6,000 between the add a tag and the dealer prep. 6 large over sticker, and oh yeah, we might throw in some tint and some air in your tires. Wow, thanks, man. Jeez, it's got motor oil in it too. How about a little bit of gasoline to get me to the station? Anything? Put seats in it. It just blows my mind, the absolute hilarity of this and the just outright balls that it takes for somebody to come to a conversation and actually have this conversation with a straight face. I know these folks are just doing their jobs. They're doing what they're told to do. But the problem is that they're not creating relationships. And that's where the twist comes in. See, the dealership that I work with will be the dealership that not only I buy the vehicle from, but then also would be servicing that vehicle should I have any issues that I can't handle myself that fall within, well, what's probably going to be left of my warranty. The dealer is going to be handling that. So the dealer not only loses out on that sweet, sweet, brand new car money profit, but they also miss out on the service department, yet another profit center, a considerable profit center at that. Not to mention, I put the sumbitches on blast. Nah, just kidding about that. But should it come to that, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But I'm also quick to prop those that work with me and take care of me. And that's not just on the channel. That's to anybody that'll listen. Hey, you need a new sled? Go to this guy. He's going to take good care of you. That service department, they know what's up. That's what I'm going to be telling folks. Not, you're never going to believe the line of bullshit this sucker tried to lay on me. So that's what I'm trying to stay away from. And that's why, again, put the left foot in front of the right and stepped out of a couple of these dealerships. So things to think about, things to look out for. If you're looking to buy a vehicle right now, this is the stuff you got to watch out for. Now, the other side to that is it's not the best time in the world to buy one of these things because interest rates are going up. So watch your ass on that. Don't play the payment game. Make sure that you're looking for something that's going to fit within the budget, but make sure you're not overpaying for the money that you have to drag out of a bank to pay for that thing. Just know that they can catch you in terms, and that's something that can sting. So let me catch up with you guys. Oh, yeah. And one of the other things that's I had somehow self-muted. Here's the thing. On the late night shows, it's basically the same show, but it can be a little bit not safe for work. So the filter can be a little bit off. And sometimes, well, it's a late night show. So I'm not going to say it's not totally safe for work. I know most of you guys have got me kind of playing in the background, but just in case, late night editions, you know what's up. So let me check back in with you guys. Looks like everybody can hear me now, so that's good. Mark saying, hey, Mason, finally got the long tubes in the RT. Nice. Only problem is that I couldn't get the mid pipes because JBA said they're discontinued. Any solutions? They're 1 7/8. Yeah, just get the high flow cats. You should be able to still get high flow cats. So that would be perfect for you. And they'll work great with your combination. And then what you do to the catalytic converters is absolutely up to you. Marco saying 72 Chevelle or 2022 Superstock. 2022 Superstock all day long. If you've ever lived, because I've got a 72 GMC 3/4 ton, and if you've ever lived with a classic, they're really cool in small bites. It's like a really rich dessert. They're really nice, really fun to, but you don't want to. It ain't what you're going to sit down and eat. Someone saying, "Sub B sub sob." And he's saying, after all this talking, no one can hear. Is all for nothing. Be going to start all over. Yeah, I'm going to have to. Yeah, I kind of had to. And he's saying he sees now. Yeah. Suffering. Sick the thing to the thing I got at the house. Glad you like that one, brother. And he's saying from the beginning, no sound. You've been talking to yourself. Okay, so here's the funny, Anthony. Dude, check this out. So what's funny about being on this side of the camera is that no matter what, I'm talking to this is so one of the funnier things, like, what is it like to do these live shows? It's like me looking at a dot right there and literally just talking to this dot. And I can see me down here. And I'm painfully aware of what that looks like, by the way. That's why I'm a whole lot better as far as, this goes as a podcast. Anyway, it's funny because I'm looking at myself talking right now. I never really watch these. I mean, I can see me, but anyway, I'm literally looking at the camera the whole time. I don't even see what's going on over here until I pan back over and look. And say now it's on. Sovereign saying hit the like button. Terrell saying I remember this when we first started selling the demons. Our senior salesmen were allowed to, and every deal was at least 30 grand over sticker. Oh, only senior sales guys. Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, a lot of those sales were referral based only in some areas, which was kind of weird. But yeah, the markup for a low run vehicle like that is one thing. I can kind of understand it, although I'm still not cool with it. Yeah, but I kind of understand it. Where I'm not cool with it is for normal vehicles. Some in the set, some I'm just gonna okay. So let's say somebody walks into the front door, has no idea how this whole thing works. They have to buy a car. Those are the ones that are going to get taken advantage the worst in this type of a situation. And I hate that for those people. And, a lot of times it's folks that can't afford to be taken advantage of that get taken advantage of the most. And that's another thing why it pissed me off so much, because, I'm sitting there listening to somebody trying to use some bullshit, especially, the dealer prep thing, as well as this market correction as negotiating tactics. We haven't even gotten, in other words, they're stacking shit on top of that window sticker. Like, we ain't even got to the window sticker yet. We're trying to knock all this other dust off the top of before we even get to it. And my whole thing is, if I will tell them, if you come at me with a dealer prep fee or any market adjustment, deal's off and I'm walking. It's not even part of a discussion. And I come across like the world's biggest asshole until you think of it from the point of view that I don't want to walk out of the dealership with the world's biggest asshole because of what just happened to me on this deal. So I'm going to come at them and I'm going to let them know just what's real. I understand this is it, though. And if you want me to be part of your bottom line, this is how we're going to have to play the game. I set the rules. That's all there is to it. So, but again, it's just one of those real annoying things. And it's something that I'm seeing a lot right now, not to mention you've got other conditions like interest rates and things like that. But the first side of it, man, is really bad. And again, took off on it. So, I was saying, bullshit. I love it. I had to say 14 minutes. I know shit, right? Arnold's saying, I'm lucky I have a great Dodge dealership here in Great Falls, Montana. Very nice. Here, Montana's gorgeous right now, too. They do not have any of the things you're saying. They have been great. Awesome, man. That's what I like to hear. I love hearing that. Fast Man saying, what it be? Love the enthusiasm. What's up, Fast? So I'm saying, how did the password recovery go? Oh, did you get the link? So I've given up on that. By the way, I tried the first link and it went nowhere, and I couldn't download it. It didn't work for whatever reason. I haven't tried the other thing. What I'm probably going to do is just pretty much holler calf rope on the whole experiment. There's really only a couple of things in that computer that I wanted to pull out, and I'm just going to have to put that on the back burner, but I appreciate all the effort you put into that. It just, the first run didn't work, and I haven't had a chance to try the other one yet. Terrell saying he did order the drive shaft from DSS. BMR recommended I do the lockout kit for the cradle and for the differential and lower control arms. Did you have any issues with the drive shaft as far as noise? So here's the thing. I moved the drive shaft with the CD joints. I moved that one on. When I first got that, just before I installed it, our friend Multiple Mopars hooked me up with a red eye drive shaft. So I'm running a red eye drive shaft now. That being said, the one that I moved on, the guy that ended up with it, that was the first one that they rolled out. The guy that had it actually drove that car quite a bit of distance, and by all of his reports, it worked great. And that was also a car that had been converted with a 309 gears, said it worked fantastic. Other guys said it's the absolute best aftermarket drive shaft out there. So personally, that's the extent of my experience with it, because once I had that red eye drive shaft, it was done deal. I'm not even going to try another aftermarket drive shaft in my car, but it is what it is. And I would say that you're probably in really good shape. Trell saying I meant the lower trailing arms. Gotcha. I like the BMR lower trailing arms. There's actually a video in my how-tos section of me installing the BMR lower trailing arms. They're really good. I think even I say it in the video, it'll take you longer to collect the tools and to get the car up in the air and get your jack stands underneath it for safety. It'll take you longer to do that than it will actually take you to swap out those trailing arms. Super, super easy swap. And I like them. They work pretty good. I don't have a lockout, the cradle lockout, but I did have that. Alberto saying, sorry to hear you have some trouble, man. My dealership has been willing to work with me without markups. I'd look at looking at a tread lightly discount. I'll have to look into that. Thank you. BB78 saying interested in feedback on EVs. Internal combustion cars have different types of engines and transmission options, so you get a different driving experience. There's variation, V10, V8, turbos, etc. So I've on several occasions have discussed EVs. The thing with EVs is in the last video where I was talking about them quite a bit, EVs are great. I like them because I understand them, though. And I don't see them from a political point of view. I see them just as another power plant, the way that I would see the new 3-liter Hurricane engine, or the way that I would see a new V8. It's all the same to me. It's a means of locomotion, and it's a thing that I can make go faster. But the way that I described EVs last time, and I think some of you guys picked up on this really, really well, so I'm going to use this again. EVs as a narrative, as a character, are too much of a Mary Sue right now. And what that means is a Mary Sue in literary terms is a character that has seemingly no flaws, can do no wrong, anything new, anything interesting that you can do, this Mary Sue character can also do, but has never done it before, never trained. It is the quintessential, it is a complete lack of a character, and it's a complete lack of a character arc. So it's a real hard character for the audience to warm up to. There's no struggle. There's no reality to it. There's no such thing as a scale with no balance. And that's in essence what a Mary Sue is. There's no way to relate. It's just, there's no warm and fuzzy. The reason for that is because in the EV's case, it immediately got politicized. There's no reason to do that. There's pros and cons to both. But for me, I have a lot of strong opinions of how EVs have been portrayed and how they can actually work well. But for the vast majority of folks out there, they're not an awesome alternative to an internal combustion engine, although they do cover the reality that 93 octane or 91 octane gasoline can only manage so much cylinder pressure. Cylinder pressure is where power comes from. And 93 octane can only manage so much. It's not like you've got 100 octane down at your local Exxon or Shell. So, for lack of a better way of putting it, the only alternative fuel that you have is E85. And if you've ever owned a car that's tuned on E85, you will instantly understand what range anxiety is. Something that a lot of EV owners or potential EV critics will say about the electric vehicle. Oh, it's a range problem. Well, the problem with that argument is that if you don't have E85 stations just all over the place where you live, your range sucks in your E85 powered hot rod, but that's the fuel that you need to be able to make big power with internal combustion engines with modern technology. When I say big power, we're talking 1,000 horsepower ish and above. So anyway, I can go on and on the subject. More than happy to have a live show that is dedicated solely to that. But I will tell you this, they're not clean and they're not convenient the way that you have been sold and told that they are. So I'll just leave it at that. Oh, Sovereign saying he's not crazy for the EV stuff. There's the real convenience of EV is out there, but you have to be a homeowner. You have to be able to afford the EV vehicle, and you have to be able to afford to have the right charger installed in your home. It's not for everybody, and that stuff is high dollar. Well, and Sovereign saying hydrogen would be more range. What's funny about hydrogen is that hydrogen isn't just, so it's actually in terms of yield, chemically, you're better off breaking down natural gas to get your hydrogen because it's a hydrocarbon. You're better off breaking down natural gas to get your hydrogen than you would be to electrolyze water. So it's funny when you look at the yield versus power that it takes to put into breaking water down versus the power that it takes to break the natural gas down, and then the final yield from that, you're still converting fossil fuels. I mean, yes, you can do it with water, but the only way to do that economically would really to be it with nuclear power. So anyway, all kinds of stuff. I can get into all of that. There's a lot of funny things when it comes to that. Anyway, Sovereign saying people want to gravitate to convenience. Very true. And EVs can't do anything without batteries. That's, of course. The one issue with hydrogen, unless you're talking about a hydrogen cell, is that they're really high in NOx. Hydrogen has a really broad stoichiometric value, meaning it'll burn with just a little bit of hydrogen and free air, or it'll burn with a lot of hydrogen and free air. The issue is that they have high NOx values. They have high EGTs. Mark's asking, does anybody think that EVs will only be for the rich? Example, the new 2024 EV Blazer's cheapest model will be $45,000. Yeah, that's something to consider, isn't it? The current 2022 Blazer is $33,000. The average person can't afford one. The issue is not really, is it going to be for the rich? Is it just going to be a secondary tax on the middle class? And for me, the more that I look at the prospect of the EV, I can see again where it fits within the narrative of the life of a lot of folks. But that narrative is kind of focused, and it's not super convenient. It's great for a primary work car, but and my whole thing was this: if you want a hot rod, get a hot rod. If you want a hot rod EV, get a hot rod EV. Everything that you're going to do from a performance standpoint, you're going to have trade-offs, whether it's range or convenience, the type of fuel that it uses, all of that. So the big jump in performance with EVs has to do with the fact that you're not tied to gasoline and all the trappings that gasoline gets you in terms of knock resistance. Again, you don't have 100 octane at the pump. You don't have 104, 110 or anything. So you're stuck with 93 octane, which means you're stuck basically with kind of a pretty specific amount of power that they can make. You can kind of fudge that a little bit with vehicle weight, aerodynamics, and some other things. But for the most part, that 1,000 horsepower, it's kind of the end of the line for what 93 octane can actually manage in an engine that's as small as what we're working with here. Oh, Callis is saying the Hurricane engine seems to be a replica of the BMW 3-liter. For it might be. The funny thing about that, so, I was talking about trucks and the vehicle that I was looking to pick up. And one of the things that scared the hell out of me about the Ford and the Toyota was that as fast and with as much power as these 3.5-liter twin turbo engines are making. And by the way, if you don't know how much how much power these engines make, you're completely forgiven. I mean, I don't really pay a lot of attention to this. And each one of them has like generation 1, 1.2, 1.4, generation 2. It just goes on and on and on. By the time you're done looking up all the specs, you feel like you're a little bit hazy here. But all of the Toyota and the Ford are the two that I'm thinking of specifically. They're both 3.5 liters. They're both basically 400 horsepower, 500 pound-feet of torque, not including the hybrid variants, which makes them fast as hell. These trucks are legit quick, legit fast. And I don't just mean fast for a truck. I mean fast as a vehicle. But the problem with these trucks, the problem with those engines, I should say, is that I don't trust them. I don't get a good feeling from them. The reason why I say that is because as somebody that kind of knows their way a little bit around the tuning thing, I know what it takes to get an engine to make power safely and reliably. And when you load a little engine with a lot of boost, you've got to fuel the hell out of it. My experience with the EcoBoost engines is somewhat limited, but I can tell you that in practice, they really don't get that much better fuel economy than a V8. In fact, in some cases, it's considerably worse. In fact, if you were to line up just in general, just in car terms, a 2-liter EcoBoost, for example, versus a 3-liter or 3.5-liter V6, the 3.5-liter V6 may offer a better driving experience because you're not stressing it and putting it under boost just to get the contraption moving. And that's primarily in cars. Well, scale that up to the level of trucks. Yeah, it's making a ton of power, but the thing is constantly in boost. You can say, you can engineer anything. Yes, you're exactly right. You can. Except the one thing that you can't engineer is, public acceptance and goodwill. And that 3.5-liter EcoBoost has had more than its fair share of problems, even coming into the Gen 2. We're talking oil pressure issues. We're talking oiling potential issues. We're talking cam phasers again. Gee, I didn't know Triton made the trip back. But anyway, cam phaser problems, which replacing them is a $3,000 proposition. And it seems to happen just around 70,000 miles or around 110,000 miles, just after warranty in one case, and significantly after warranty, but nowhere near a realistic service life for any engine today. Now, the Toyota could be as reliable as the day is long. I don't know, but I ain't going to buy it because I don't want it. Another thing is, listen, it could be fast as diarrhea, but I'm not going to freaking like the way that it sounds. And for me, part of the ownership experience is the theater of that thing making all that noise. So for me, it's just, well, more or less an idea of, do you want to get a 321 gear or do you want to get a 392 gear? By the way, still working on getting a full read file for the DT trucks. Oh, sorry. I got ahead of myself. So talking about the new Hurricane, that 3 liter, here's the problem that I have with it. The 3 liter is not 3.5 liters. So it's smaller than, but it's larger than the smallest of the little V6 turbo engines at the 2.7. So it's bigger than a 2.7, smaller than a 3.5. Nobody asked for a middle of the road inline anything turbo 6-cylinder. Dodge, Mopar, Ram. You couldn't have made it 4 liter? Like, really? The more I thought about this and the more I looked at it, the more annoyed I got by it. Let me explain to you why I'm going here with this. The standard power version of this thing is rumored to be somewhere around 400 horsepower, and it's 400 horsepower, whatever, 500 pound-feet of torque. Probably more like 470 is what I'm thinking it's going to put out. But the cover charge is 400 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque, somewhere in that range. But that's at 26 pounds of boost or 24 pounds of boost or whatever the obnoxious number is. The high output version is rumored to be about 500 horsepower and 475 pound-feet of torque or 500 pound-feet of torque or whatever it is. Well, that's great, but that's at 28 pounds of boost or something obnoxious. That's basically at 2 bar. So it sounds neat on the front side, but the issue that you have, and it's a real big issue if it's me spending money, is when that thing is in boost all the time and it's a tiny engine, can I trust it long term at that power level? You're asking me to basically take a 20% reduction in displacement, going from 3.5 liters to 3 liters, but still make the same amount of power. What gives? Well, is it reliability, longevity? Do I spend all this money only to find out that I've got the latest lemon that could come out of Dodge? I mean, I know they go through a lot of testing, but the reality is that, I don't want to feel like I'm beta testing this thing out in the field, which is kind of how it's turning out for me. So, I guess if I don't know if the 3.5 liter EcoBoost, especially the Gen 1, can teach us anything here, is that you probably don't want to put all your eggs in that one basket just too soon, especially with all the issues they had with that thing. Let's see. Oh, Sovereign say it'd have to be green hydrogen. Be tough to do. It would have to be hydrogen fuel cell. Yeah. There's talk of improving. Sovereign's just talking about power sources now for EVs, improving the devices that electrolyzes the water via capillary action in the electrolyzer element. There's a lot that can go into it. But at the end of the day, which would you rather have, I guess, is the main thing. If the technology's there and it works, it works. It plays itself out. Chuck saying, is the 262 gear not as good as the 309 option in the kitty? So, man, you're going to get some argument here. I happen to like the 309 gear a lot, and you would be hard pressed to convince me to put my 262 back into the car, except for the fact that with the 262, the car is going to feel a little bit punchier. I know it's counterintuitive, but it gives load to the drivetrain to have that 262. And with that load increases boost response. So the 262 can kind of feel a little bit punchy under partial throttle conditions, only because it'll tip it into boost a little bit quicker. The 309, though, with a tune is really good. And, I would have a hard time again letting that 309 gear go. It's kind of my go-to. I will say though, just like with the trucks, with the 392 versus the 321, what the hell flew up my face? You lose a little bit of acceleration past about 140 miles an hour with the 309 gear. It'll scream like a banshee to about 136, 135. And then as it makes the shift into sixth, that's when it's going to start to nose over. Whereas the 262, if you're making highway hits and stuff like that, is going to be a barn burner up to about 145-ish miles an hour, 150 miles an hour. So you get the extra run out back, and it's kind of like having another overdrive. But why I like the 309 is it seems to cruise a little bit happier going down the highway with the 309. I can lock mine at about 110, 107, 115, and it's about 2,400 RPM, and it just is real happy at that mile an hour. So that's kind of my take on the gears. But if you have a 309, if you're going to put a 309 in a Hellcat, I would highly suggest putting a tune on it if you're going to be taking it to the drag strip. If you're not, that car is never going to see a drag strip. Throw a pedal commander or a pedal box on there, something that will recapture the actual throttle response, and you'll like it a whole lot. Sovereign saying it sucks just like the Slant 6. Talking about that 3-liter. Sovereign saying, imagine discovering a barn 569 Charger, but it has a Slant 6 and not a Hemi. Yeah. Funny thing is, there was a lot of those 6-cylinder Chargers running around back then. Skylar's saying he's going to throw some cylinders on it, make it a straight 8. Mr. Ben asking if I'm related to Vin. I am not related to Vin. Cal is saying you have to bore it out to get more power to the Hurricane. Yeah. See, the thing is with me and that whole 3-liter thing, I understand it can be made to work. Okay. Turbos, forced induction, the new no replacement for displacement. Yeah, there is actually. It's called boost. Big rigs do it all the time. And as a matter of fact, the inline configuration to me has some distinct advantages over the V6. Not the least of which is, well, ease of maintenance is one. And more to the point, it's just a much smoother running engine. You don't have to have balance shafts or offset crank shafts, which can create potential strength questions, although I think they've got that figured out now. But they're such a silky smooth engine. My thing, though, is that this is not going to be a high revving engine. This isn't something that's going to be spinning to 7,500 RPM. So bump up the displacement. Have the thing cap out around 6,000 RPM or 5,500 RPM and build something that makes 450 horsepower and 550 pound-feet of torque at a lower boost number. And that would be what I would do if I were engineering this thing, because you can force feed this thing the same amount of air. But if you're going from 3 liters to 4 liters, you're increasing your displacement by 33%. You're increasing it by a third, which means that with the right set of heads, which you would already have configured for this, that you would make the same horsepower at a third or less of the boost. The reason why I say or less is because your charge temp is going to be significantly lower. When you go from 30 pounds to 20 pounds, your charge temperature goes down by quite a bit. So that would be my drive, would be to try to put something together like that. Not to mention, they do it in Australia with the Barra. So come on, y'all. And then Ford's been doing that for a while too. Kind of makes you wonder why that engine's not over here. It blows my mind. Anyway, let's see. Scout's asking, what engine did the Scamp have? The Scamp you could get with the 225 for sure, and you could also get it with a 318 and a 340. Someone's saying, wouldn't turbos work better on a higher revving engine? It depends on the turbo design. You can, I mean, look at all the diesel trucks running around. They all have turbos and they only rev to about 2,000 RPM. It all depends on how you size your turbo, and they can be made to work at low RPM or high RPM. You can make them work within whatever range you like. You just have certain trade-offs, just like with anything, that you have to look at. If you want to make them make a whole lot of power down low, you're going to have a lot of exhaust back pressure, which can create an issue, especially when you're talking about knock resistance and things like that. If the turbo's too big, it'll make a lot of power. It'll take more RPM to get the turbine to flow. And although it'll be more efficient technically in terms of making a horsepower number, it will be less efficient in terms of its power band because it's going to try to make all the power up top. Chuck saying the Hellcat I looked at today is a 262 gear. Yep, the 2021 dual snorkel hood, good looking car. Regular Hellcat, not a red eye, 717 horse, 656. Seems to fit me like a glove. I tell you what, I love me some Hellcat. As a matter of fact, if my car wasn't doing that kind of stuff, I'd probably leave the 262 in there. And there are some guys that will argue that the 262 may in fact be a better gear overall. So you're not giving up anything to go with the 262. Robert's saying he's got a 6.1 Pro Charge cam with a 391. Traction is always an issue. Any suggestions regarding tire and wheel combo? Well, it depends on what you're doing with it. I mean, obviously you could go with a set of 17-inch drag specific wheels with a set of Hoosier DBR 281050s. That's an option if you want to do something for the drag strip. As far as anything for the street, man, good luck with that. I would say ET Street SS is the best right now. Aturo does not have their drag radial out, but I am clamoring, waiting to get my hands on a set. But until that drag radial comes out, you've got the ET Street SS and you've got the Nitto 555R2. That's going to be about the best that you're going to get for any real longevity on the street. Let's see. So I'm saying, I got you. Chuck's asking, is the CL on a 62370? What do you mean by CL, man? I must be drawing a blank. Let me know what you're asking about that. Oh, is a cubic inch on a 6? I think that's what a CI. Cubic inch on a 62370, 376. Summer saying, I do like that dual snorkel hood. Indeed. Callis has got a good point, saying if the Scat had the 90, it'd be more of a level playing field. Listen, if the Scat had the HP 90 like it should have in the beginning, then yeah, it would definitely be a good thing. I never can understand the HP 70. This is the funny thing. The HP 70 is not the HP 90 in terms of its durability versus its rating. It is nowhere near as beefy as the 90. As a matter of fact, the transmission that's in the Supra, same type of a variant as the HP 70 and 70, 75, 80, or 90 rather, it is an HP 35 or something like that. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Apparently, that little HP is kind of like its big brother, the HP 90, where it can take a lot more power than it's rated. But the HP 70 just doesn't seem to fall into that category. We'll Talk Entertainment saying, hey, B, why does Dodge only offer the 309 gear option in the red eye? Why not have it be an option for the Hellcats? Well, that's been a question that I've had for a long time. Why isn't it an option? I'm really not sure why it's not. Probably because if the Hellcat had a 309 option, the red eye would be a whole lot less of, well, there wouldn't be a lot of a reason to go to a red eye. And it just adds a little bit more mystique to the red eye to have that gear. But I got to tell you, I've been flummoxed to be able to tell you why Dodge doesn't just offer the 309 gear for the Hellcats. It drives me nuts that they don't. And there's no logical reason behind it, because you literally just take one out, you put the other one in. There's nothing to it. So I will say this, it could, it may or may not fall in line with this, because you're already paying a gas guzzler tax. But the Hellcat with a 262, going back to the 262 thing, the Hellcat with a 262 will actually knock down some pretty obnoxiously good fuel economy on a road trip. It is not at all uncommon for Hellcat owners to get 24, 25 miles per gallon on road trips or more. I'm just kind of stopping where the average lies. So you go down to a 309, you're going to get more into like the 21, 20 range. But with that 262, there's a big difference, and the fuel economy is definitely there with that stock gear. So maybe it's something there, CAFE, a corporate average fuel economy thing. Shift is saying, any update on direct connection? I guess us 392 guys are fooked. Yes, you are. And as a matter of fact, here's the deal. The problem right now with direct connection is you can get hard parts. You can get drive shafts. You can get the 0 degree rear suspension, the knuckles. You can get any of the hard parts you can get. You cannot get the pulley, and you cannot get any of the calibrations, which is kind of the big thing that they were revolving around. You can get the hood. You can get all of that. Just the calibrations and the electronics you can't get. Which that's where all the sex was for direct connection for a lot of guys. Now, for guys like me, I'm looking at the hood. I'm looking at all these other things that can be an option. So anyway, let me get to it. The reality is that for the forced induction guys, that's having a hell of a hard time getting through EPA. And for you guys that don't know, the original Hellcat would not pass emissions if it were released today. That's the reason why there was the patch. For the ECU, there are reasons for this, but not the least of which, and one of the primary things, by the way, that's driving this is catalytic converter temperatures and long-term viability of that thing. It basically, these cars are going to cat overtemp now the second you go into wide open throttle with any amount of cruise time on them. So on a dyno, yeah, they'll make the power once or twice. Then they go into cat over temp protection, and they just don't make the power anymore. All that being said, the latest calibrations are just not passing EPA for whatever reason, which is weird. Probably on tip in, they've got different ways that they're testing them. Some kind of new SAE JXXXX, whatever it's going to be, standard for testing. Dodge is going to focus on forced induction, and that includes the Hurricane, and that also includes upcoming hybrids and EVs. You can ramp up the torque out of an electric motor, no emissions. You can ramp up the torque, kill a bunch of torque management in an EV, no emissions. You try to boost up the power in something that's already making a bunch of power and is kind of on the edge, to be honest with you already. Yeah, that's where it's going to be the problem. So anyway, that's the problem with direct connection right now. It's the worst kept secret in the industry, is that they let that cat out of the bag way too early. So, that's something that it's just real annoying, and it is kind of is what it is. So, we'll see what they end up doing with it. But word on the street right now is that there's not going to be any way to really have anything to do with direct connection. Sorry, I'm taking care of something real quick. That direct connection is going to be able to do anything with the naturally aspirated crew, primarily, because they can't get any power out of them. So one of the problems that these guys run into is nobody wants to buy a part for their car only to have it not perform really any better. And so to get any, and you're going to ask, well, how much power is that particular modification going to make? Well, if that particular modification, whatever it is, only makes 15 or 20 horsepower, but it costs you somewhere around, $2,000, $3,000, you might start to not want to do that. Regardless if it's dealer installed, you keep your warranty and everything else. A lot of guys are going to not want to do that. And that's really where the NA crowd lies. For the 392 in particular, for the 5.7, and by the way, I did get a partial read file on the DTs for the trucks. Dude, weird looking tune. In fact, I'll be filleting the rest of that thing later on tonight. But anyway, I'm trying to break it down and get an idea for what's going on. It's so weird. I even called up our buddy Ernesto. I called him up and was asking him, he works in parts at a Dodge dealership, asking him, is the knock sensor the same from, like, is it a different part number? And it's retroactively good. It's just the figures are all weird. It's all over the board. So anyway, but no big deal. It just, I'm just going to have to dig into it a little bit. And because once my truck shows up, once my truck gets a VIN, it's going to have a new ECU coming probably. And unlocked and basically ready to go. Cal saying, here's another question. Why is the 1320 package an add-on for the Scat Pack, but not for the Hellcat? Because the 1320 package for the Hellcat is the super stock, if you want to think of it that way. There's really not a good analogy for the Hellcat when it comes to the 1320. In fact, the original 1320, if you want to think of it this way, would have been the Demon. So that would have been your 1320 package. For the Hellcat would be the Demon. But the reality now is that, the Demon doesn't exist anymore. And so you've got the Red Eye / really the super stock. And really if you want to get super technical, the Red Eye really in a way would kind of be like the 13. Well, there's no suspension change. So really, yeah, it'd be the super stock. But I'm with you on the gear thing. I don't understand why the 309 just isn't an option. It really kind of should be. And you should be able to get drag race suspension, even if it was just the Scat Pack front sway bar for the Hellcat. I would sign for the Challenger Hellcat. I would sign off on that because I love that sway bar on my car. It's significantly lighter. And man, to be honest with you, the car rides a little bit better with that sway bar. It just kind of does. And it's planted in street mode. And it makes sport mode usable again, just the way it was in my SRT. The Hellcat from the factory with that stock sway bar being solid is so rigid that it just kind of beats the hell out of you. Whereas the Scat Pack front sway bar is more compliant. The car seems to settle in and plants better. So anyway, that was my experience with that. But there's a few things that I just would have done a little bit different with that car if it were me, but it wasn't me. So anyway, well, with that, guys, listen, I'm going to wrap it up. We're coming up right at about an hour. I got to wake up crazy early. I'm going to be messing with some, just kind of, again, picking apart a tune and putting spreadsheets together and trying to figure out what the heck's going on. So with that, guys, going to go ahead and wrap it up. Sorry about the first part of the video. That was some really good stuff. It was Pulitzer Prize winning material. I'm afraid you just missed out on it. If you can read lips, you'll know what I'm getting at. It was fun. Anyway, guys, thank each and every one of y'all for hanging out with me. Would not do this without you. Love each and every one of y'all. Get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. And that's a wrap. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Adios.